Today's review is going to be different from how I normally do my reviews. If you've gotten the chance to get familiar with the previous reviews I've done, then you know my reviews are typically done more critical rather than heavily and immaturely opinionated like some can be on this platform. Unfortunately, when it came to this game, I hit a wall. Although I try to present every review with an open-hearted approach, this particular game series has been so near and dear to me ever since I was a child chilling in the first grade. But for the first time in my life, I was so disgustingly disappointed in a game that the critique section accounted for more than half of the first draft of making this review. So now that I'm presenting you with a renewed review, sit back, relax, and send a prayer to the sailors upstairs for the 2019 very long-awaited sequel, because right now, call me Mike Tyson because I'm about to spare no punches. If you've never heard of the Shenmue series or never played it, I'll give a brief history of what it is and why so many people like myself cherish the Shenmue series. Shenmue is a series that saw the light of day on December 29th, 1999. The series centers around Japanese high schooler Ryo Hazuki heading home after a martial arts tournament. Noticing something off upon his arrival, Ryo heads to his family's dojo, witnessing his father confronted by a stranger known as Lan Di. Lan Di is searching for a mysterious dragon mirror that only Ryo's father, Iwao, knows the location of. Lan Di also asks Iwao if he knows Chao Sun-Ming, under the suspicion that Iwao was the one who murdered this particular Chao Sun-Ming before delivering a killing blow himself to Iwao in front of Ryo. From this day forward, Ryo embarks upon a journey fueled by revenge, befriending some intriguing characters along the way, while also creating enemies on his path. Shenmue 1 took Ryo on the streets of his hometown Yokosuka in search for Lan Di's whereabouts. Shenmue 2 took Ryo to the streets of Hong Kong and the verdant hills of Guilin to travel to where he meets a local village girl named Shinhua. Shenmue 3 picks up immediately from Shenmue 2's cliffhanger, taking Ryo through another journey through the fictional city of Nuawu to assist Shinhua in rescuing her father after discovering a local gang has been kidnapping stonemasons to retrieve the whereabouts of the second mirror involved in this mystery, the Phoenix Mirror. Playing Shenmue 1 and 2, and even 3 in this day and age of gaming, will quickly expose how outdated this series' gameplay and arguably graphics are. But for those of us who are fans of the Shenmue series, are aware of Shenmue's poor aging. What we love and respect about this series is being daring to innovate and pave the way for open world games at a time where it was a rarity to experience such premiums. Assigning every NPC a particular schedule to follow in-game, using real-life weather data to replicate the exact weather each day experience within every Shenmue game, researching each feature location in order to replicate these cities and towns one-to-one, while being able to fully explore these cities under an artificial day and night cycle. It's no wonder that during this creation, Shenmue was the most expensive AAA title ever at the time. Granted, the story nor the English dub are winning any Oscars anytime soon. But for those of us curious to see if Ryo finally reaches Lan Di and avenge his father, we're ecstatic to see Suzuki announce a Shenmue 3 Kickstarter during E3 2015, and to no one's surprise, Shenmue 3 became the quickest Kickstarter to reach $1 million within 24 hours and the most funded Kickstarter video game at the time. They say if you love something, then set it free, and if it comes back, it was meant to be. But after playing Shenmue 3 and completing Shenmue 3, you, Suzuki, should have kept this bitch locked away and throw the key into a garbage disposal, because Shenmue 3 makes dumpster fires look like the Super Bowl. Where did it go so wrong? As I stared at the ending credits of Shenmue 3, briefly reflecting upon my rough 20 hours of playtime, I was left with the feeling of absolute emptiness. After 20 years of hoping, praying, and wishing for a continuation, Shenmue 3 is not only a hollow shell of its predecessors, but also unworthy of being branded a sequel. If Yu Suzuki wasn't prideful enough to express that he doesn't play current video games, he would have realized that his biggest competition in 2019 was another game sequel fans had been waiting 20 years for that also braves a 3 in its title, and that game was Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, you may be laughing at how comical it is to compare a mainline game from a mainline franchise jointly created by two dominant companies from the East and the West to a long-abandoned Sega mainline game with the higher budget, bigger development team, 15 million spin-offs that also canon to the story, yada fucking yada. But that's not why I'm bringing up Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm bringing up Kingdom Hearts 3 because it manages to do what one should expect for a sequel to do, which is concluding an arc. Kingdom Hearts 3 returned to conclude the Xehanort saga. What does Shenmue 3 conclude? Nothing. Other than a few moments like finding out the Dragon of Phoenix mirrors were commissioned by the Chinese emperor and Zhao Sunmin wanted to keep these mirrors from falling into the wrong hands, we are still completely clueless and have not gained that much new key information about untold questions that have lingered around since Shenmue 1 and 2. Who really killed Sunmin Chao and why? And who are the rest of the leaders of the Chiyo men other than Shu Ying's brother? You know, shit that's been bubbling in the cauldron of mystery for over 20 years now. Shenmue 3 created more questions than it answered them, so it's no wonder this game felt more like an expansion for Shenmue 2 rather than a proper sequel. Of course, questions kept popping up throughout my playthrough of Shenmue 3, but there was one particular part of the game where I found my mind invaded by a clusterfuck of question marks, and that part was the final showdown. In every Shenmue game, the final showdown is usually a high-stakes gang hideout infiltration turned rescue mission. Shenmue 1 was rescuing Ryo's friend Nozomi from the Mad Angel's hideout. Shenmue 2 had us rescuing Yuanda Zu and eventually Joy from the Yellowheads headquarters. Shenmue 3 doesn't shy away from including a rescue mission, but what makes this mission different from its inclusions in 1 and 2 is the allies who aid you along the way. The allies you meet in Shenmue 1 and 2 are side characters who provide Ryo with key information during his detective searches, but they build a bond with Ryo by actively being involved in helping him throughout the entirety, or at least a huge chunk of the games they're in. Whether it's getting through his thick skull and reminding him martial arts is an art to be respected, not used as a tool for revenge, or helping him get accustomed in a foreign land where he knows no one. They constantly interact with Ryo, and you as Ryo constantly interact with them enough that they bear importance in Ryo's life, to the point Ryo himself starts to see these characters as friends and mentors. In Shenmue 3, you don't really make these bonds with these side characters as you progress throughout the game. Your interaction with that character is limited to maybe like 1 or 2 instances, and that's it. So when they decided to show up at the old castle as if they were the Avengers, I felt absolutely nothing in this scene. If anything, I was wondering, why are they here? And they tried to add a bit of comedy with one of the side characters, but I didn't fucking laugh because I barely remembered the guy. I was literally left confused with seeing this ragtag group of people who don't really have a connection with one another. And the final scene only gets more and more disappointing from here, because when Ryo finally meets Lan Di, once again, the two give us a brief fight in the middle of a burning building, only for Lan Di to escape again. Of course, Ryo wasn't going to pummel Lan Di, nor should any of us have expected Ryo to pummel Lan Di. But you choose instead to send us again on another wild goose chase for Lan Di. Who the hell does Lan Di think he is? Carmen Sandiego? Then shortly after, you're told that Lan Di is still in the vicinity. You know, just over that mountain in the back. Around the corner, no big deal before the credits play. And I wish I was beaming every single bit of that last sentence, but I kid you not. You are literally told that Lan Di is just around a mountain behind Ryo and Shenhua's location. I bet Yu Suzuki's favorite Pokemon is Clefairy after pulling a fucking double slap at the end right there. And believe me when I say there are things in this game that do deserve praise, such as the location designs being gorgeous as always in every Shenmue game, as well as the soundtrack being so iconic in capturing the location, the culture, the mood, the tone, the emotion, and the essence of the Shenmue series through music. But no matter what accolades I have tried to give Shenmue 3, the amount of red flags and clunky controls and subpar inconsistent writing this game has overshadows and outweighs the praise. The first red flag is somehow Shenmue 3's gameplay manages to add new features not found in the past 2 Shenmue games that harms the game more than it benefits it. For one, let's start with the random QTE events that are in this game. As a matter of fact, there's rarely any QTEs in this game other than training your moves, but that's fine. What's not fine is randomly busting out a QTE at the climax of the game, and this is the only story-oriented QTE that is in all of Shenmue 3. I kid you not when I tell you, I spent like a good 3 minutes flubbing this QTE because it's the only QTE of its kind. And speaking of combat earlier, there's something of a leveling system designed for Ryo to strengthen his kung fu skills in this game. So by mastering the moves, Ryo's attack power increases if you spar with other fighters located throughout the city, and by training on equipment, Ryo's endurance is increased. That's cool, but what takes the shine away from this RPG leveling system is how clunky the combat in this game is. To perform moves, you have to do button strings, and for some odd reason, there's no throws in the game, on top of the health bar doubling as a stamina bar. So if you enter into a fight after running around the city for 3 to 4 minutes robbing kids so you can collect capsule toys and forgot to eat some food before engaging in battle, oof, tough luck, champ, because you're gonna get mollywopped. Oh, and did I forget to mention that blocking in this game also costs stamina? And those are just a few red flags for me. But the biggest red flag for me is what contributed to this game feeling like a fucking grind festival. I'm talking a bigger festival than Coachella. Want some clothes money? Want new moves money? Want some toys money? Want to play some games money? I don't have a problem with adding these vanities, which, with the exception of clothing, have always been a staple of Shenmue. The issue I have is you don't create all these various avenues to spend money, yet remove the amount of avenues to earn money. It was such an absurdity and backwards from Shenmue 2 of all games. Granted, you can get a part-time job working at the docks lifting crates that would make Jeff Bezos send a talent scout to your doorsteps, but the fastest ways to pocket chunks of cash was either through collecting or gambling. The amount of collectibles in the game was still somewhat extensive like the previous Shenmue titles, but I want to know who decided gambling should be done with tokens? You use money to convert into tokens to earn more tokens to turn in for prizes and collectibles. Wow, huh? If the concern about promoting gambling is behind having to use tokens to gamble instead of money, then there shouldn't be gambling in the game in the first place. So it makes no sense to take something that worked well in Shenmue 2 and change it for no reason. From Lucky Hit to even the street fights, they all require for you to use tokens to gamble with. Bitch, this is Hong Kong, not Chuck E. Cheese. I would not be surprised if the needlessly grindy behavior of Shenmue 3 is to cover up for how bare and lacking the story is. And the more information I look up about Shenmue 3 post its launch, the more I realize that there is no excuse for the way the game turned out. I can excuse Yu Suzuki not enjoying video games. After all, you don't have to play games to make one. What greatly upsets me, however, is that in an interview with IGN Japan, Yu Suzuki allegedly revealed that the actual budget of Shenmue 3 was $20 million. $20 million is a pretty hefty amount of money to invest into a video game. It might be a pebble in the sea of how much it takes to fund a AAA title game, but there exists too many examples of indie as well as AA games that have provided subjectively appealing gameplay and story and have become hits. Some of these hits shockingly costing less than $20 million to fund. For a game like Shenmue 3, where Suzuki claims the game would be story-oriented at only $2 million, one can't help but wonder if the overall budget increased to $20 million, why does the game still lack so much for a budget that is 10 times the initial cost? So it makes me wonder, shouldn't some of that $20 million go towards expanding the story? Which brings me to find out that there is a story DLC. I opted to not purchase the story DLC, mainly because I didn't even know that there was a story DLC. And did I pay for the story DLC? Absolutely no. So I ended up watching a playthrough of the story DLC for Shenmue 3 on YouTube. And I watched it thinking that perhaps it's going to go into depth, expand upon the ending of Shenmue 3, but alas, the Chawan sign is a lie. The story DLC is yet another wild goose chase of a rescue mission, using this time Chawan signs. Lots and lots of Chawan signs. Now I will admit that it was a pleasant surprise seeing Chawan signs implemented more than usual in the Shenmue series. These Chawan signs do provide hints or leads you to key people that are involved in kidnapping Zhang, only to then be given a note that directs you to a restaurant where the second floor is exclusively for couples, thus dragging Shenhua along to deal with this shite. After performing another Cha Won sign at this restaurant, you get a note that finally tells you the hideout location, and behind a couch you find Zhang on the ground. After freeing him, he reveals there was a mole within his little clique of agents that's been feeding Ryo these Cha Won signs left and right, and it's to no one's surprise, the very guy that gives you the mission to find Zhang. You end up fighting not only him, but you also fight these 3 guys that you've already fought within Shenmue 3 again. And that's about it. That is the entire story DLC. How much did this DLC cost again? We have now arrived at the final judgment call. Should you play Shenmue 3, whether you're someone new to the series, or if you are a Shenmue fan that has not gotten around to playing Shenmue 3 yet? My answer is a heartbroken no. Rarely have I ever had a game make me feel this way, but how I wish upon a star I could go so far back in time to never have played Shenmue 3, because it is that much of a disappointment for the years that I have waited. When the payoff does not amount to the amount of time invested into something, it doesn't matter whether it's a video game, fishing, learning an instrument, whatever. That's when we tend to consider it a waste of time. Although I give much respect to Suzuki for wanting to see Shenmue get the proper treatment it deserves, and as well as Suzuki's legacy in video games in general for so many innovative games that he has created for Sega, you also gotta get your head out of your stubborn ass and realize that gaming now is vastly different from gaming back in the 90s and 2000s, even the 2010s. Success is not guaranteed in the same manner as sequel is not guaranteed. Was I expecting Shenmue 3 to conclude the entire series? Of course not, no. But I was expecting for Shenmue 3 to conclude something major. I'm also well aware of Suzuki's dreams to have Shenmue told across 4 or 5 games, and his supposed battle with either keeping the story as is or pumping Shenmue 3 with more story chapters. For the people who believe that Shenmue 3 is fine as it is, and are happy that Suzuki didn't take that risk of adding more chapters for the sake of rushing and potentially ruining the story of Shenmue, you sweet summer child. This review might have been painful to hear, but I spare no feelings, even for the series that are dear to my heart. The story of Shenmue might continue to live on, but unfortunately my anticipations for seeing Shenmue through to the end has been extinguished. That concludes this review. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and click on the notification bell so you can be notified when more reviews hit the streets of YouTube. Until the next video, you always know to stay safe, stay healthy, and don't forget where you were the day the snow turned to rain. Thanks for watching.